All right, a happy Thursday trade deadline, 3 p.m. deadline show on ESPN, 1 to 6. We'll have more things after. I think myself, Woj, and Cassidy Hubbard are doing a show right after, and then Zach Lowe and I will do our annual podcast. And if you were sleeping on the East Coast and you woke up, whoa! For those who were up till 3:30. A blockbuster. Kevin Durant goes to Phoenix with T.J. Warren, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jae Crowder, likely to another team sometime today. 4 first-round picks, a pick swap, go to Brooklyn, and the big three of Harden, Irving, and Durant that ended last February this time is over. The big two of Irving and Durant that ended this past Sunday is over. The big one of Kevin Durant in Brooklyn is over. Here's my initial reaction to it. I put the boards up. You saw the financial ramifications in the contracts, and we'll go through it. I don't think this deal gets done if Robert Sarver is still owning the Phoenix Suns. They have a young and aggressive owner in Matt Ishbia. I don't want to butcher his name, who has gone all in. He has gone all in, and he has thrown his chips in the middle, and what he said is, I want to win a championship. I had a nice young roster. I want to win a championship right now here. And the cost of winning a championship is 4 first-round picks, a pick swap in 2028. The first are in 23, 25, 27, 29. 2 nice young players, one on a great contract in Mikal Bridges, basically 4 years, $90 million. Cam Johnson, a nice young player who will become a restricted free agent. We'll see what happens with Crowder. We'll probably go to another team sometime Thursday. I don't see where Jae Crowder fits in. Now you have Dorian Finney-Smith. But here is Phoenix in a Western Conference that is wide open, that gets Kevin Durant for the next, whatever it is, 25 games, probably after the All-Star break, and now has a chance to get out of this conference. I still put Denver as the favorite, and we'll go into that in a minute. And you have them for the next 3 years. It's a win-all move. If there's no NBA Finals or a championship out of this, it didn't work. I mean, there's no kind of in-between here. My biggest concern, and I mean, hey, you get a top 3, top 4 player is, you win the trade right off the bat, right? You get Durant, you win the trade when he's on the court. My biggest concern is, and how we've seen it in the past, is the ability to build out your depth. And I'm not talking about this year. You have 2 roster spots. You have Booker, you've got Durant, you've got Ayton, you got Chris Paul, you've got Landry Shamet, you've got Campaign when he gets back. You have Saric. We'll see what happens with him. You've got a bunch of minimums, Damian Lee, Josh Okogie, Bismack Biyombo, a group like that. My biggest concern is moving forward with an aging Chris Paul, Devin Booker, who has been in and out this year with hamstring issues, and Kevin Durant, who's always going to miss 20 games a year. That is going to be my biggest concerns in years 2, 3, and 4 that's left on Kevin Durant's contract, because now you have $120 million next year tied into Ayton, Durant, and Booker. Okay? That's your big 3 in Phoenix here. Ayton, Durant, and Booker. The likelihood is that you will probably be close to the luxury tax. We'll see what happens with Chris Paul, who's got a partial guarantee here. Your draft assets are picked. So now it's up to your player to personnel department to find those under-the-radar players, to find second-round picks that you still have here, and to build out that depth. Maybe eventually Ayton turns into something here. But that would be really my only concern as far as from a Phoenix perspective, is that your depth, your injury. And that's the case with any time you have 3 players making over $120 million. We see it everywhere. We saw it in Brooklyn with when Durant suffered an injury and Irving was out. It's hard, and you're stripped down to your draft assets. It's hard to build out the roster when it's top heavy here. But for me, and I'm a gambler, I love it for Phoenix just because it gives them a chance. it gives them a legitimate chance to get out of the Western Conference here. And I'm not going to put them up there with Denver right now, and I think that's a discredit to the Nuggets based on where they are this year, the best team in the Western Conference here. But, man, you get a Denver-Phoenix possible Western Conference Finals, and Durant is healthy. That's the big thing. If Kevin Durant is healthy, this team has a chance to get to an NBA Finals. Finances-wise, it added about $36 million to their luxury tax bill. Who cares, right? I mean, let ownership, let Matt figure that out. As I said, now you cannot trade a first-round pick. We'll see what happens with some of these expiring contracts on Thursday. Dario Saric, certainly to keep an eye on. And as I said, you still have some of these. Seconds, but you need depth, right? You're not going to get Durant back likely until after the All-Star break. Booker is a hamstring away from missing another 3 weeks. Chris Paul is not the old Chris Paul, right? So you just have to manage and get this team into the playoffs in one piece. But it is a win-all move for the Phoenix Suns. For Brooklyn, did you win the trade? No. Anytime you trade a top 3 player for a group of nice players in Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson and 4 unprotected first rounds and pick swaps, from a basketball perspective, you don't. You didn't win the trade. And I'm going to go into more about the positives of this. I don't want Brooklyn fans to put their head in the sand here. Kevin Durant is a top 3 player. He's a top 20 player of all time. He's the ultimate closer. So I don't want to sit here and say, you know what, Mikal Bridges is a nice player, and Cam Johnson, and Durant's hurt a lot. You didn't win the trade, but you move forward. And basically what happened on Thursday morning, late Wednesday night, Thursday morning, you get to a point where Kevin Durant eventually was going to ask out. Maybe it was at 2 o'clock on Thursday, and maybe it was on June 22nd, a day before the draft, or on the day of the draft. He was going to ask out based on you weren't going to win a championship this year. You were likely going to lose in the first round here or the play-in or wherever. And the same in the question that's hovered around this organization for a year, will Kevin Durant ask out, was going to resurface. You basically waved a white flag to turmoil. You did that on Sunday, and you did it with Durant, and you basically have reverted back to that fun 2018-2019 team that won 43-44 games and took Philadelphia, beat Philadelphia in game 1 down there and lost in 5 games, and everybody loved to root for. It's basically like Memphis from a few years ago here. But the Big Three era in Brooklyn is over, and I think it shows you the challenges of building a Big Three when you don't have a player that you draft as a homegrown, as one of those Big Three. Miami had it with Dwayne Wade. Boston had it with Paul Pierce. Brooklyn did not have it. And when you have a lot of different personalities that mesh, things go sideways to kind of keep everyone in order. I love Mikal Bridges. 3-and-D. He's shown his offense this year. He's got a great contract, 4 years, 90. Shoot, if Brooklyn wanted to flip him again, they can flip him for 4 first-round picks or 3 first-round picks. OG Anunoby's out. The market for him is 3. You can walk away with this trade deadline with 9 unprotected ones potentially here. But I wouldn't do that for Brooklyn because you don't control your own first-round picks. Houston does for the next 4 years. So what's the sense of basically kind of hitting rock bottom and gutting it out? It doesn't. It doesn't make sense. So if you're Brooklyn, you keep Bridges, you keep Dorian Finney-Smith, you keep Spencer Dinwiddie, you keep Cam Johnson, and then you start building it out with flexibility. The Ben Simmons situation, I've talked about it. You're going to have to figure that out in the summer. I mean, there's not enough time on the trade deadline to figure it out here. Cam Johnson's a restricted free agent, right? You've got to figure out what your price tag for him is. Is it 18 to 20? He came off that injury. He's played well. One of the better shooters, 40% plus. A big wing, he's playing the 4, can play the 3 for you. You have a lot of different versatility as far as from a lineup standpoint. As I mentioned, Crowder is likely going to go in the trade somewhere else. You saved a ton of money. You went from $110 million on Sunday before the Irving deal to down to $35 million in the luxury tax. You basically saved $75 million in savings. You recoup. Remember that movie Draft Day when you trade all your first-round picks and you get them all back? You get 4 firsts. You get a pick swap here. And you basically have wiped the slate clean but in a better situation than when Sean Marks took over in 2015 from me and my former colleagues there after that disaster of the Boston trade. You are in better shape now than you were then because you have a baseline of Bridges, Johnson, Dinwiddie, Finney-Smith, Cam Thomas, Nick Claxton, right? Like, that is a buildable group there. Is it a top 3 or 4 team in the Eastern Conference? Probably not. Can you still stay in the top 6? Possibly, as long as you get these guys to mesh here, and gives you a ton of roster flexibility going into the offseason. We mentioned the draft. You have now 7 tradable first-round picks, the 4 unprotected, a Dallas first in 2029. You got a Philly first in 2027. You've got your own first that you can trade. So now you're back in the draft asset accumulation pool where you need to be here. What else do I have for Brooklyn? I mean, that's it. I mean, it's over. Nets fans can exhale. The front office can sleep better at night. But at the end of the day, back in 2019, if you had a chance to go out and get Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and not give up anything, all you had to do is just give up cap space. 30 out of 30 teams would have raised their hand and said, I would. The problem is what happened after. The personalities, the Irving personality, the Harden, getting James Harden in trade, him falling off the wagon, Durant asking to trade, all these different distractions basically overcame everything. And that's why the 20-game stretch where they won 18-2 was a thing of beauty. But eventually you were going to have to be faced with the Irving extension, Durant asking out. And at the end of the day, you raise the white flag to the Big Three era, and you little by little you start taking this thing down, not to the studs, but with a foundation to build off of. The next thing, as I said, you got to figure out what you want to do with Ben Simmons, and that's for this summer. So we will have more videos up today on Thursday. That is the trade deadline, Brooklyn-Phoenix edition. Hopefully everyone is good. 3 hours sleep. I am ready to rock and roll.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus right now.